Hello, welcome to a Q&A video. I've decided to combine this with eating dinner. So I got my kava here. For those of you who haven't heard of kava, it's like Mediterranean Chipotle. So I want to address some of the more general questions first. One of the biggest questions I get is how I choose suggestions that get into PR2. I choose things based on what I can add and what I like, and what gets support from the community. The reason I haven't added things like custom item blocks and whatnot yet is because I just don't know a lot about how to do it. Or at least historically, I haven't known a lot about how to do it. But as I get more experienced in adding things, and as I add more ambitious things, I learn more about how the system works and how PR2 is structured. So it's possible that in the future there could be more advanced things added. A question I get asked a lot is what's going to be in PRF. Also, when is PRF going to be released? I know about as much about PRF as you guys do, in the sense that Jigman doesn't keep me updated personally on PRF development, nor am I helping with it. Because again, that's another language I don't know. When Jigman and I spoke, he told me that his new game Bubble Racing is a way for him to get used to the physics engine that he wants to use for PRF. So I would assume that once Bubble Racing is a little farther along, PRF will follow. Can I be a moderator? No. I'm kidding. So the way things are right now, we don't really need new moderators. If I'm online, I'll probably temp you, just because, as I've said on multiple occasions, I will not exist in a server without a temp mod. And plus, it's a game, so why not temp people? That being said, if you have priors or anything, I'm not going to temp you. Also, if I ask you and I don't temp you, don't keep asking me, because that'll make me less likely to do it. And going along with that, if I temp you, that doesn't mean that you're going to become a permanent moderator. I just have a more liberal approach to temping people than admins in the past. Alright, let's see what you guys have asked here. JC100 asked, what are the recent games you've been into other than PR2? I really liked playing Super Mario Maker on stream, also Grand Theft Auto 5 with Jonathan. A lot of the times when I play a game, I like to stream it, just so it's like I'm not playing alone in my room. Especially with coronavirus and everything, it's like, sometimes you feel really lonely. It's like you want to stream, have people interact with you, whatever. Jack asked if I've ever thought what would have happened to PR2 if Eternal and I weren't promoted. I never really thought about it. I would assume that it would just be the same as when I was a moderator, or as a member. When I was promoted to a mod, I tried to do more things. Like, the artifact hadn't been set for 3 months at that point. Side note, that's why I think it's funny when people say, oh my god, the artifact hasn't been set in a week. It wasn't set for 3 months before. I assume every single one of the staff would still be inactive. There definitely wouldn't have been more updates, and JV2 wouldn't have been made. I also think Jigman wouldn't have posted the server code on the GitHub repo, because he only posted that after I sent him some file modifications to make. I think the first thing that I sent him was the admin edit guild script, because there was an admin edit player script, but we didn't have a admin edit guild script yet. No idea what that means, so I'm going to skip it. Ashley766 asked what my biggest pet peeve is. I don't really have much that gets under my skin. I think it's just part of doing this for a while. You can just kind of learn to let things slide off. Truk asked if Tony is as sexy in real life as he looks on camera. Yes. I mean, just look at how much I was sweating when we got together. Athena asked if I was president of the world, what I would do or change. I think a lot of bad things in the world today stem from political corruption. So if I were president of at least the United States, I would work to cut down on corruption. Instate term limits for the Senate and House of Representatives. Cut down on lobbying. Attempt to get rid of Citizens United versus FEC, the ruling that says that corporations are people. And I think as things start to reform from the top, they'll trickle down to the bottom. Otherwise, I think my biggest qualm with politics today is how polarized everything's become. I miss when people would have actual individual opinions versus voting their party all the time. I'm talking about people in Congress. Today it's just so red and blue, and there's no purple anywhere. It's almost like everything's a party line vote. So I assume I'd be affiliated with a party. What I'd do is I'd try to reform my party so that members of my party could vote their mind and not what the party wants them to vote. Minimania asks what my thoughts on PR3 are. It's a well-made game. Not my thing. The physics were a little bit difficult for me to adjust to from PR2. I think I got a bad break with Sparkworks. That was a really bad decision. to put it on Sparkworks, but, hindsight's 2020. And I think the whole PR3 experience kind of turned Jigman off to making games, at least for a while. I really like what ISO and the rest of the PR2 dev team has done with it. It looks better than ever, and of course the main issue, which was the servers, is now resolved. Jay asked if I could live forever and never age, would I? Absolutely not. I don't want to see all my friends and my family die. I also definitely wouldn't want to be here when the Earth runs out of resources, or global warming becomes way too much of an issue, which there is already a danger of happening in my lifetime. Minimania asked if I could only eat one food for the rest of my life, what would I choose? That's a good question. I would probably want it to be something with variety, like a kava bowl, just so I stayed healthy and never got too much of one thing. David asked a two-parter. I'm going to answer the second part first. He said, do you feel working on PR2 has given you a lot more programming knowledge since you started? Answer is absolutely. I've learned more from working on the PR2 code than I think I have from programming classes that I've taken. The vast majority of my knowledge of PHP is self-taught anyway. As for ActionScript, believe it or not, ActionScript has helped me learn JavaScript, because ActionScript and JavaScript are both ECMA script languages. They both follow the same kind of format of the language. I wrote a little more about the difference between ActionScript and JavaScript in a blog post I made probably about a year ago. It's called The Problems with Adobe Flash. It's on, not a blog post, an announcement. It should be in the announcements forum, stickied. The second part of the question is, since taking over development of PR2, what's the hardest thing I've run into while working on it? I think just kind of like reverse engineering it, purely speaking from a client standpoint. Because in PHP, the error reporting is great. In Flash, not so much. There's more to focus on in Flash, I guess you could say. There's ActionScript files, and then there's the FLA document, which has the visual elements of the game. Animations, graphics, buttons, etc. Figuring out how the PR2 ecosystem worked, and then rehabilitating it so that I was able to edit it and I knew what everything meant took a long time. And I'm still in the process of doing that. What happened in encryption is a lot of the variables lost their names. And so part of my job as developer now is to go back and rename those things once I figure out what they do. For instance, yesterday I was looking in the arrow block code, and there's explicit values for how much each arrow block affects your horizontal or vertical velocity. But these variables only appeared in one place. So first I renamed them to give myself an idea of what they did. But then it was like, well, I can just make these explicit values in the function because they only appear in one place. So I added comments for myself, but I took out the variables. And everything still works fine, so. But it's kind of like reverse engineering Jigman's code and fixing it where it doesn't make sense or it's convoluted or whatever. Addie asked me if I'm getting a PS5 or an Xbox Series X. I don't know yet. If I was going to get one of them, it would be the Xbox because I've always been an Xbox person. The PlayStation controller is just kind of weird to me. I'm one of those people that buys a console because I like one game on that console. I'm trying to get out of the habit of that. So I've told myself if I want to buy at least 5 or so games on the console, then I'll buy it. Otherwise, it's not really worth it until the console depreciates in value. Like when the Nintendo Switch came out, I bought a Wii U because I only wanted like 2 or 3 games on it. Tad asked what my favorite Garfield comic strip is. The one where he talked about lasagna. Stick asked if I'll ever stop bullying him because of his name. If you prefer, I'll call you Matt from now on. JemJ asked if I enjoy living in New York or if there's somewhere else in the world I aspire to be. I love New York. I don't really think there's anywhere I'd rather live. When people ask, I always tell them I like to do, get, see, etc., anything I want at any time of the day. It's also a major transportation hub, so it's really easy for me to get places if I'm traveling for some reason. As far as living in other places, I mean, I like to travel. I think it might be cool to live in London or Paris. Domestically speaking, probably in Seattle, maybe Los Angeles. I don't really know. I'd have to spend more time in other cities to figure out where I'd want to live. I went to Australia this summer. I really liked that. Sydney's a beautiful city. Cameron asked what my favorite campaign level is from each of the platform racing games, and which of those 3 would I say is my favorite overall. I'm going to admit to you up front, I don't know any of the PR3 campaign levels. As far as PR2 levels go, definitely something from the original campaign. I think my favorite from the original campaign is probably Soul Temple. That would probably be my favorite out of PR2 and PR1. I don't even know which one I'd choose for PR1. I think probably the last one. I don't remember the name of that one, but I like that one. I'm gonna call this person Genius Shadow because I still don't know how to say their JV2 name. Genius Shadow asked what my thoughts on traps in PR2 are. People who do them, I have so much respect for you because I have no idea how to do those advanced maneuvers. The only memories I have, I played with Albatross once on his level Star Traps. I had that video up on my YouTube channel for a while. Of course, classic traps, devious shadows. I've done that a number of times. I've always had to be carried through it because, again, these advanced maneuvers are not my thing. But, again, much respect to anybody who can do traps on PR2. Just not my thing. Lala Fox says, blah, blah, blah. I can't think of anything, but I want you to answer anyway. 56. Platform Guy asked if I can do impressions. I never really thought about it. I could probably do an accent, like a New York accent. Hey, I'm walking here. So bad. Jay asked what my favorite animal is. I love dogs. Sloths are cool too, just because I feel like that's my spirit animal. Dan83 says, really important question. How do you feel about pineapple on pizza? This ain't it, Chief. Tad asked what my favorite state of matter is. Probably plasma. Lego Man 945 asked when I'll make up my mind on whether or not I want to keep the beard. Here's the situation with the beard. I'm not a fan of a super long beard, but it doesn't look that great when I trim it. I'm also very lazy. I don't like to shave it every day. So as you can see, I got some growing right now. I'll usually shave when I get the motivation to shave. If it's getting really, really long and scraggly and whatever, then I'll probably shave it when hair starts getting in my mouth, because it's not fun. Would not recommend. I think I answered X-Guest's question in the beginning, but I'll say again that I have no idea what PRF is going to be like. If I had to guess, I'd probably say it's going to be some kind of JavaScript remake of PR2. Just because Jigman has said that he's going to import all of the assets from PR2 into PRF. Jeremiah asked if the rest of the Jigman games will ever get revived. Volley Bounce is very close. I would like to get that released within the next couple of weeks. War of the Web is unfortunately not going to happen. There's way too much to do, and there's no way I would have it ready before December 31st. Creation I'd like to revive. I've decompiled that, so it's all ready to go when I'm ready to start working on it, but it's going to be a delicate balance deciding to do that, or to keep updating PR2, or to do Volley Bounce stuff, because, you know, I only have so much time in a day. I think the only other one is competitive line waiting, and that one, it's impossible for me to do it, because the actual game has been lost to time. The only thing that's left is the preloader, and the preloader doesn't contain all the data for the game. Minimania asked what the best hat is. My favorite's the Santa hat. It gives you extra time to walk on things that would otherwise trigger, like vanish blocks or mines or what have you. Also, little known fact, the Santa hat actually gives you plus 10 speed. Tad asked how good of a Wario impression I could do. You want fun? Wario show you fun. Every copy of Mario 64 is personalized. LP asks cat, to which I respond, dog? Aspect Zero asks when the HD graphics update is for PR2. Don't stop believing, my friend. And it looks like that concludes this Q&A. If you have questions you want to ask, leave them in the description or on the Q&A thread, and maybe I'll do another one of these. Who knows? Anyway, take care. Bye. I don't...